There are four basic things that we can do. Number one, I could open up a presentation that I had open recently. So here's this. I could open up another presentation somewhere else, maybe one that I never opened at all. Maybe someone else created it. Maybe I opened it up a long time ago. I could click here and open another presentation. Third thing I can do is create a brand new presentation based on an existing template. And you can see here there's all kinds of templates that we can use. And the fourth thing that we can do is create a plain blank vanilla presentation. I'm going to do that, and then we'll do the formatting once we're in there. So I'm just going to choose blank presentation. And you can see here, this is a title slide. We can add a title there. There's a thumbnail there in the upper left corner. And before we type any text, let's do a little bit of formatting. Now, since I'm in the Windows version, I'm going to go over here and click the Design tab on the ribbon. If you're on the Mac, you want to click the tab that's called Themes. It's basically the same thing. You see up here we have some pre-made themes, some pre-made formatting, and I could just roll the mouse over. I'm not clicking anything, it's just giving me a preview. That's something that'll be a little different on the Mac. On the Mac, there is no preview, you actually have to click. But it's okay, because if you don't like the formatting that it shows you, you could always undo, press Command Z. Now there's not a lot here, but you see this tiny little arrow here in the lower right corner. If I click that, I can see a whole lot more. And I'll just choose, I'm going to choose this one. Also, if you're on the Mac, you won't have a little drop down there. You'll have a little arrow over here on the right, another little arrow there on the left. And if you put your mouse pointer on this list, you'll get a little drop down hanging off the bottom. That's just on the Mac. So if I want, I could apply some variations. Now I could keep this as green. I could put on a blue or a purpley or a darker one, something like that. And of course, you could do formatting on your own manually. We're not going to cover that in this tutorial. So maybe I'll try this blue one here. Also, you see in the lower right corner of this variance is this little drop down. If I click that, I have choices for colors, fonts, effects, and background styles. Also, on the Macintosh, you'll have buttons for colors, fonts, and background right up there on the ribbon bar. You don't have to get to this little drop down. So I could go over here for colors, and you see there's different color schemes that I can use. Choose whichever one you like. I'll choose this blue one there. I'll go back, and also for fonts, there's different font sets that you can choose. And I'll go back here, and I'm not going to go into effects in this tutorial, but if you want background styles, so you see if you want something a little more, but I'm just going to leave that blank to make things simple because this is just an intro tutorial. Okay, so let's enter some text. Now you see here on this title slide, obviously it says click to add title, but here's what's really cool. You don't have to click anything. You could just type. So I'm going to type a title here. After all, this is an internet video, so I'm required to have some cats in here somewhere. And you see over there where it says click to add subtitle. You don't have to click. You don't have to take your finger off the keyboard, put it on the mouse, find the mouse pointer, click there, release the mouse, put your hand back on the keyboard, and type. Total waste of time. All you have to do is, in Windows, press Control-Enter, and you see your cursor is immediately in that subtitle box. If you're on the Mac, the keyboard shortcut you press is Command-Option-Return. Anyway, let's just type some text here. And as I'm updating this, you notice that the thumbnail here in the upper left corner is also getting updated. So this is a title slide. Let's go and add some content slides. Now the same shortcut that I used to get from the title to the subtitle, I can use to get from the subtitle to a new content slide. So in Windows, I'll just press Control-Enter. Or again, on the Mac, you can press Command-Option-Return. And here in the upper left corner, you see we have the little thumbnail there. So just like in a regular title slide, you don't have to start clicking and moving your hand back and forth between the keyboard and the mouse. All you have to do is type. So I'll just type something. And now I want to add some content in here. And there's a couple of things I could do. Number one is, if you see here in the middle, there are 6 tiny little icons. So I can click, for example, to put in a table or a chart, smart art graphic, which we're not going to do any of these in this tutorial. I just want you to know what they are. I could put in pictures from online sources. That's something that's new in the 2013 version. I could insert video. I just want to put some text, so I'm going to use that same good old shortcut again. And now I get down there into this text box. And you notice that we have this little bullet there. It's kind of grayed out, and it'll stay grayed out until I type something. So I'll just type. And as soon as I type, that becomes full. It's no longer grayed out. Now I want another bullet, so I'll just press the Enter key, the return key on the Mac. And again, I have another bullet kind of waiting for me to type. So I'll type something else. Now, what if I want some sub-bullets? That is, I want to indent the outline. Well, when I press the Enter key or the return key, it assumes that, okay, you typed a first level bullet, so when you go to the next line, you want to type another first level bullet. So to indent, all I have to do is press the Tab key. And when I press the Tab key, you see the bullet is a little smaller, and if you have a different theme applied, you might have a different bullet altogether. And now I can type something. And you see the text is a little smaller. Now when I press the Enter key or the return key, you see it stays in that level. PowerPoint assumes that when you're typing a bullet on a particular level, when you hit the Enter key or the return key, you want to stay on that level. So I'll type that. Now, what if I want to make my next bullet fully over on the left margin again? When I press Enter and I'm on that second level, to move back to the left, I press Shift Tab. That is, I hold the Shift key down and press the Tab key, and that outdents. That brings me back to the first level again. Now I'll type some other stuff. And Enter. So at any time you could indent and outdent. That is, I could take the cursor and click over here and press the Tab key to indent it, or I could press Shift Tab to outdent it. So don't worry, you can indent and outdent at any time, not just when you're first typing in. Now I want to add another slide, but notice where my cursor is. My cursor is up here in the middle of the slide. It's not all the way down there at the end. So instead of using the shortcut that I showed you before, I'm going to show you a different shortcut and also a mousy way of doing it. In Windows, I could press Control M, and incidentally, it's also Control M on the Mac. Not the Command key, but real Control M. But maybe I don't want to use a shortcut. I'll go back here to the Home tab, and you see over here we have New Slide. And I'll just click New Slide. And you can see here's the third new slide over there, and now I have a brand new one just like before. So for a little practice, let's just type something in. And again, you don't have to click anything, you can just type. And at the end of the title, I'll press Control Enter, or again, Command Option Return on the Mac, and I'll just type in a bunch of items. Now, when you're done typing or done editing anything, you see you have this text box there. To kind of deselect, there's a couple of things you could do. You could either click somewhere out here on the background, or you could hit the Escape key twice. I'll show you how to run the slideshow, but first let's put in some simple effects. Now, PowerPoint separates effects into two different categories. They're what are called transitions, and transitions are how one slide moves to the next, really dealing with the slide as a whole. And there's also animations. Animations are how do things move around on a slide itself. And you notice up here on the ribbon, we actually have a Transitions and an Animations tab. So, let's do this. Let's go here to slide 2. Do this in order. Click Animations. And what I want is for the title to fade in and then for the text to fade in. If you don't want to use fade, if you want to use a different animation, feel free. I'll just click over here on the title. And you see here we got a bunch of pre-made animations. I'm just going to click fade. And you see it gives me a tiny little preview. And you see there's a number 1. That means that's the first thing that's going to happen on the slide. Now I'm going to click here in the text area here. And I don't even have to select anything. I'm just going to click fade. And you notice it applies it and also in order. Notice here this number 3 means that this tabby and the sub-bullets under it, gray and orange, are going to come in as one unit. You could adjust that if you want. We just don't have time for that in this tutorial. Now let's apply the same animations to the third slide. I'll click the third thumbnail here, and again I'll click on the title and make that fade. I'll click somewhere in the text, and again I'll click fade. Now we'll apply some transitions. One piece of advice I'll give you is whether it's PowerPoint or Keynote or any presentation program, you want to use the same transitions throughout the presentation. If you have a different transition every time you have another slide change, it's going to be very distracting for your audience. And the transitions get applied to whichever slides are selected over here in the left side in the thumbnail area. So right now I just have this one slide selected. There's a few ways that we can select all of these thumbnails. Since slide 3 is already selected, I could shift click the first slide. Maybe let me just click here to deselect. If only slide 1 is selected, I can shift click slide 3. If only one slide is selected, I could hold the control key down or the command key in Windows, and with the key held down, click the others. And the last way is, and I'll just click down here to deselect, I can press Control A or Command A on the Mac to select all of them. At any rate, once all of these thumbnails are selected, now go over here to the Transitions tab, and here you have a whole bunch of transitions. You could use whichever one you want. I'm just going to choose Fade. And you see it gives me a little preview. Okay, now let's run the slideshow. In Windows, in the lower right corner, you have this little movie screen button to run the slideshow. If you're on the Mac version, that little movie screen button is somewhere over here in the lower left corner. Also, I have all 3 slides selected, and that's fine. If you have anything other than slide 1 selected, maybe if you have slide 2 or slide 3 selected, you want to make sure to click slide 1 first. Otherwise, you're going to start the presentation from somewhere in the middle of the deck. So now I'll click the slideshow button. Here is the first slide of the presentation. And to advance from one slide to the next, and also from one bullet item to the next bullet item within a slide, there are several ways you could do it. You could click the mouse. You could also press the Enter key or the Return key. You could also press the down arrow key or the right arrow key. And you could also press the space bar. If you decide you want to go backwards, whether backwards through a bullet list or maybe to the previous slide, you could tap the up arrow key on your keyboard. And each time you do that, you go backwards. And let's go to the third slide, and you see we've got the fade. So now I'm on the third and final slide. Oh, I almost forgot to mention one other way of advancing, and that is you can roll the wheel on the mouse. You can roll it forwards to go to the next item or the next slide. You can roll it backwards to go to the previous one. Not less noisy that way. Now here I am at the last item in this presentation, and I'm running the Windows version. So after my third and final slide, you see it gives me a black slide. And you can see up here on top, it says end of show, click to exit. So you could click, you could hit the enter key or whatnot. Now that happens by default in Windows. On the Mac version, it doesn't happen by default, but you could go into the preferences and enable that. So I'll hit the enter key, and that brings me right back into PowerPoint. Also, let's say you're showing a presentation and you decide that you want to exit the slideshow before it ends. You could just press the escape key to do that. So now you know the basic steps of how to create and run a PowerPoint presentation. Now, if you want to play around with this presentation that I created, I'll go and save it for you. I'll click the little save button here, and I will save this as Domestic House Cats. And I'll leave this in the Tuts Plus website for you to download. So I hope you found this helpful. Thanks for watching, and I hope I see you next time.